welcome to our 2026 Ronald Reagan dinner. My name is Greg Sindelar, and I have the privilege of being the CEO at Texas Public Policy Foundation. And tonight, we are honoring two great leaders. The recipient of our Ronald Reagan Award, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and the great American it is named after, of course, former President Ronald Reagan. Two great leaders, one who changed the course of history and one who is still making history, both guided by strong values, unfailing determination, and a vision for a better future, and both possessing a contagious optimism that people want to be around, an optimism that sparks hope, fuels faith, and builds resolve. Tonight, we honor great men who bring out the greatness in others. We have a full night ahead of us, so at this time, please go ahead and begin your dinner. We will offer a blessing shortly. But first, it is my pleasure to bring out my boss, which is our board chairman, Kyle Stallings. Kyle is CEO and founder of Desert Royalty Company in Midland, Texas. He's a graduate of Texas Tech University. There we go. I know there's some Red Raiders out there. We'll get into the Aggie portion a little later. And he began his career in the oil industry in 1979 before going independent in 1981. Kyle not only serves as the chairman of TPPF, but he's also on the board of the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum and is co-founder of Marketplace Midland, and on the board, of course, of several other nonprofits. But most importantly, Kyle and his wife Jamie have 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and I hear one on the way. And really most importantly, well, it's probably nothing more important than your grandchildren, Kyle, but Kyle just celebrated a milestone birthday. So please help me welcome our board chairman, Kyle Stallings.
Well, I'm Kyle Stallings, and on behalf of our founder, Dr. Jim and Cecilia Leiniger, and Greg, our CEO, Greg Sindelar, and his wonderful staff at the foundation, we want to welcome you, and on behalf of the entire board of directors, we want to welcome you to our 2026 Texas Policy Summit. This is the 37th year since Dr. Jim started the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and I believe our 24th Policy Summit. So when TPPF was originally founded by Dr. Jim's vision, it was basically to enhance the principles that would support liberty, freedom, and limited government. And that is our mission. That is why we exist. And Texas Public Policy is here in Austin, Texas, to be a beacon for those principles. I want to thank all of you who have made the effort to be here. One of the biggest blessings you're going to have while you're here are the people at your table and the other people you get to meet while you're here. You're going to enjoy wonderful keynote speakers, but also I encourage you to attend as many of the breakout sessions, to meet our subject matter experts, to be able to ask them questions and to get to know them as well, which is a great opportunity. But again, most of all, I can't emphasize enough this distinguished group that's here, that's sitting at your tables. Take the time to get to know people here. Those relationships will prove to be your greatest blessing. So again, thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy Texas Policy Summit.
All right. It's working. We did it. We fixed it. Thank you, Kyle. You've been a wonderful board chairman and friend and mentor, so we're really appreciative of that. All right, but now we always have a custom at TPF where we give thanks and prayer to our Savior. And tonight, to do that, I've asked Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock to give the prayer, because tonight is all about a lot of the great things that have happened in this state, namely school choice. Kelly took the reins in July of 2025 as the state's chief financial officer after being appointed by Governor Abbott. In a short amount of time, he's overseen the rollout of Texas Education Freedom Accounts, which has over 274,000 applications. So, as the Lieutenant Governor said earlier today, we're going to have to grow that number and grow that appropriation so we can serve all of those kids. Kelly served in the Texas legislature for nearly 20 years, first in the House and then the Senate, where he helped shape many policies and authored a lot of great bills, including spending cap legislation. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from Baylor University, and he and his wife Robin have 3 children and are proud grandparents to 6 young Texans. Please help me welcome Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock.
Well, and as of a week ago, that's 7, and I got 8 coming in August as far as grandchildren. So my wife's not with me tonight because my daughter is recovering, as many of you women know. And it is an honor to be here. In fact, got to tell Dr. Leininger, my very, very first event for TPPF was when I was a president of a local school board, looking at running for the Texas House, and attended an event about, guess what? School choice. Yes, I've been an anomaly since the very start. I was president of a local school board that always believed that parents and families were the best ones to know what was best for their child when it came to education, and been a huge supporter from day one, and honored to be involved in the program tonight. Dr. Leininger, thank you very much. I'm sure there's times like you, like many of us, thought this vision would never come to reality, but it has, and it has in a huge way in the state of Texas. I am going to lead the prayer, but I was asked to talk about Texas Education Freedom Counts a little bit before we go, and I don't like talking that much. I did Sunday school for 20 years, so I got all my talking out. So we'll be brief on it. And you've heard a lot of the numbers. When we started the program, what I told the team is I wanted everybody on this team to be passionate about school choice. Not just to be an employee with the comptroller's office, but on this program, you had to be passionate about school choice if you wanted to be part of this program. And we assembled that team, and then we said, next, we will not talk about anything other than success. We're not going to talk about the naysayers. We're not going to talk about anything but having the most successful program in the nation, establishing a template that others will look to and say, we've got to get our program like Texas, and establish that mindset. And I started, and Mandy, you know this, you're going to get recognized. I said, we should have started promoting this program yesterday. Let's go. And we did we not? Immediately from the day I took office at the governor's request, we began traveling, going to private schools. As God would have it, the very, very first private school we visited in Dallas was the benefactor of that program in Fair Park in Dallas. He didn't know I was going to be there, because he just knew the comptroller was coming. It was a buddy of mine from Baylor that played baseball at Baylor, whose family helped underwrite this program. And from that time, I knew God was in charge of all of this, and we were going to do nothing but be successful. And the other thing we said is we're going to sell out. And at the time, people thought I was crazy. But we did sell out. In fact, yes, 274,000 students for the first time in this state got to choose the education that is best suited for them. Unfortunately, we don't have the funding, legislators. We have $1 billion. And with 30,000 students of special ed, which were equally divided between public education students and private school students, $400 million most likely will be utilized just for that one tier, the very, very first tier. See, a third of the program are families with less than $65,000 in income, total income. And guess what we're having to do in the second tier because of the lack of funding? We will have to do a lottery, and we will have to tell families and send out notifications to families whose total income is $65,000 in the state of Texas that they did not benefit from school choice this year because we don't have the funding for it. That's how successful this program has been. That's how successful the team that we assembled, and with the support of the dreamer, Dr. Jim Leininger, who refused to give up on his dream. And with the help of TPPF, the help of those, Mandy, I appreciate you traveling. We really didn't know each other, and all of a sudden we were a pretty good team talking about it because we believed in the same thing. That God created every child unique. I've got 7 grandkids. I got 3 kids. There's not one of them that's the same. There's some I'd give you, but they're not the same. And they all, I can tell you today, with the oldest being 7 years old, they're all going to learn differently. And it was time for Texas to give a choice to families. Because God has given us the ability to learn. And we owe our Creator, the one that's sovereign over everything, to work towards giving those same freedoms to families across the state of Texas. And with that reverence to Him, please join me as we pray and thank Him for the wonderful blessings that we have in this great state. Gracious Heavenly Father, we do come to You, knowing that You are sovereign, sovereign over all things. And God, You give vision, as You gave vision to Dr. Jim Leininger. And You're patient, as we've had to be patient. You're patient with us, sinners, in need of a Savior. And that's what You gave us in Your Son, Jesus Christ. God, we thank You for the passion that is in this room. We thank You for the hearts that are here that want to see the great state of Texas be even better and greater. We thank You for Your wisdom. And God, as we look at government and the mistrust of government, as we look at men and the rightfully so mistrust of men who are failing, God, we rest on You, our sovereign Creator, the Lord of all things, the ones that put kings and leaders in place. And it is in You that we place our trust. It's Your wonderful name we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Please enjoy your meal. We'll be back with the program in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Says goodbye and the phone hangs up. And it's kinda got me feeling some type of way, like a sinner left sitting on Judgment Day. And she comes, she goes, but she always says goodbye. And I give anything just to be by her side. Got a bottle broken heart with no vacancy. Broken heart with no vacancy. No vacancy. Yeah, no vacancy. Sometimes her jacket smells like cigarettes, but she hates the smoke. And when I ask who she's hanging out with, she says no one I would know. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm not. Maybe she's guilty, maybe she's caught. She's bringing back cheating songs. Kinda hurt that gets you singing along. Something circa 1973. She's lying with him and she's lying to me. She's bringing back diamond rings, slipped in the pocket of her tight fitting jeans. It's back in fashion, doing somebody wrong. She's bringing back cheating songs. Call me on her way back home, but she don't call anymore. something circa 1973. She's lying with him and she's lying to me. She's bringing back diamond rings, slept in the pocket of a tight fitting jeans. It's back in fashion, doing somebody wrong. She's bringing back cheating songs. She's bringing back cheating songs.
One, two, three, four. Man, I got a song for y'all. Interesting. Actual writing. Something y'all ain't ever heard of. She wants a cowboy, so I just might find me some boots that fit me right. Chew some tobacco, ride me a Bronco on a southern Saturday night. I ain't ever rode a horse or worn a cowboy hat, but I'll find me one that fits my head, and she won't know any of that. I keep walking this town, trying to get me some advice, but all the ranch hands around keep on saying they wanna fight. And I learned a two-step so I can spin her off her pretty little country feet. If she wants a cowboy, then I'll be as cowboy as a cowboy can be. Find me a horse that I can cover, find me some stars to sleep under, find me a train, I'll hop out west. If she wants a cowboy, I'll cowboy the best. She wanted a cowboy, so I went off and rode me a horse about every day. Got pretty good at ranching and riding, but she didn't care anyway. Champion buckles and champion spurs, I got everything but her. Now I'm a cowboy and she wants Nashville. What the hell was all this worth? Find me a horse that I can cover, find me some stars to sleep under, find me a train, I'll hop out west. If she wants Nashville, I'll Nashville the best. One more. Man, I never heard a song as good. So find me a horse that I can cover, find me some stars to sleep under, find me a train, I'll hop out west. If she wants a cowboy, I'll cowboy the best. Alright boys, I'm leaving for the day. Take it easy, that was it. Throw her on the damn radio.
Sister cries out from her baby bed. Brother runs in, feathers on his head. Mama's in her room, learning how to sew. Daddy's drinking beer, listening to the radio. Hank Williams sings Elijah and Dear John. And time marches on, time marches on. Sisters using rouge and clear complexion soap. Brother's wearing beads and he smokes a lot of dope. Mama is depressed, barely makes a sound. Daddy's got a girlfriend in another town. Bob Dylan sings like a rolling stone. marches on. Time marches on. The south moves north, the north moves south. A star is born, a star burns out. The only thing that stays the same is everything changes, everything changes. Sister calls herself a sexy grandma. Brother's on a diet for high cholesterol. Mama's out of touch with reality. Daddy's in the ground beneath the maple tree as the angels sing an old Hank Williams song. Time marches on. 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 Time marches on.
I got the whiskey. She gets a Goodyear bottle of wine. I got the neon. She gets the backboard strung up with lights. I got the white lies. She gets the truth. She gets the version I wanted of you. If I was good enough to be your last call, why is she the one you call your mama about? After seeing all the BS I saw, why is she the one who sees your best side now? If I'm the first thing on your mind, the second she lets go, then why ain't I the girl you're taking home? I saw the pictures, and she gets a cross-eyed county line. She's riding shotgun in your dad's old 85. I bet she met your grandma, you took her to church. She gets it cleaned up, and I got the dirt, and it hurts cause if I was good enough to be your last call, why is she the one you call your mama about? After seeing all the BS I saw, why is she the one who sees your best side now? If I'm the first thing on your mind, the second she lets go, then why ain't I the girl you're taking home? Yeah, I'll take her home where you grew up, baby. Why ain't I the one you love? If I was good enough to be your last call, why is she the one you call your mama about? After seeing all the BS I saw, why is she the one who sees your best side now? If I'm the first thing on your mind, the second she lets go, then why ain't I the girl you're taking home? Then why ain't I the girl you're taking home? Then why ain't I the girl you're
TV's on the wall playing baseball and football. No one wants to turn them off. The bar's all stacked, ain't nothing it lacks for making a memory get lost. There's a lot of people around making happy sounds, so you never have to be alone till they close it down and you're the last one out with no reason for going home. Welcome to Splitsville, home of the lonely members of the Heartbroken Club. Yeah, this is Splitsville, the place where people go when they fall out of love. And you've tried every turn and every turn's led straight downhill. Welcome to Splitsville. I remember the night we had that big old fight. Said you were done this time for sure. You were so mad over something I said. You stormed out and slammed that door. I thought I'd let you leave, let you blow off some steam, and we'd fix it all somehow. Now we're so far gone past that fork in the road. Looks like there ain't no fixing it now. Welcome to Splitsville, home of the lonely members of the Heartbroken Club. Yeah, this is Splitsville, place where people go when they fall out of love. And you tried every turn and every turn's led straight downhill. Welcome to Splitsville. Oh, you'll find someone and I'll find someone, and we'll talk about trying to stay friends. But you won't want to see me.
All right, we are going to continue the program now, but I have a very special announcement. Governor Abbott is in the house. And of course, he's here with our wonderful First Lady, Cecilia Abbott. But thank each and every one of you for being here and taking the time from your busy lives to spend this evening tonight helping us honor our wonderful Governor, Greg Abbott. With us tonight are a number of men and women who know what works and what is right, and we've seen their leadership on the state level down to the local level, and we honor them for it. Now, as you can imagine, there's a fair amount of elected officials, or maybe even some soon-to-be elected officials with us. I saw, in fact, our wonderful Don Huffines walking around earlier. We had a conversation. But if I went through every single person, we would be here till midnight, and my promise to you is to try to get you out of here before midnight. So if you are an elected official or maybe soon-to-be elected official, please stand so that we can recognize your service to our great state. All right, thank you all so much, and thank you all for being in the arena. Tonight's event is made possible by the generous support of our dinner underwriters. Without their support, we simply could not continue to fight for this movement here in Texas and throughout the United States. So thank you to the Anwar family, Citibank, Philip Morris International, and John Garrett with Apex Site Services for your leadership and support tonight. Please help me thank them. But that's not all. We have many more supporters who are part of this. And so I'd like to also thank ACP International, Ashley B. Cash, Katrina and Dustin Eash, Ambassador Ken George, Deb and Rex Gore, Dick Moncrief, the Texas Stock Exchange, American Federation for Children, Texas Tech Regent Doug McReekin, Parker and Leslie Reese, and Kristen and Dick Tips. Please help me thank them for making tonight possible. I'd also like to recognize our TPPF Board of Directors that are with us tonight. This is really important because hopefully I get everyone that's here. But of course, our Chairman, Kyle Stallings, is here. Our Chairman Emeritus and founder of TPPF, Dr. Jim Leiniger, is here, along with his beautiful wife, Cecilia. Tim Lyles is here. Where's Tim? No, I saw Tim. Past Ronald Reagan Award recipient Ernest Angelo is here. Our newest board member, Tracy Baker, is here. Don Bennett is here. There's Don. There's Don. Doug Deason is here. Where are you, Doug? There's Doug. Vim Head is here. Stacy Hawk is here. One of my favorite Aggies, Chaz Neely, is here. Where's Chaz? Where's Chaz? And of course, one of my favorite Longhorns, besides you, Governor, Brenda Payovich is here as well. All right, and finally, I would like to recognize the many great young adults, men and women who are members of our Liberty Leadership Council across the state who are here with us tonight. So would anyone under the age of 45, which I will remain standing because I'm still under the age of 45, please stand up so we can applaud your attendance and salute your service to this great state. At TPPF, we have many heroes who we admire. We admire the American founding fathers who mutually pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor as they signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. They would not live under the tyranny of a king who stripped them of their natural rights. We admire the founding fathers of Texas who would not live under a regime of military despotism after Mexico abandoned its 1824 Constitution. They would not be subjects of the government that failed to protect Texans' right to life, liberty, and property, a dictatorship that had thrown Texas agents even into dungeons. They declared a free and independent Republic of Texas on March 2nd, 1836, and many fought and died to secure our freedom that we enjoy today. And so we admire so many who have fought over 250 years to secure our liberty and our freedom, some in uniform, some in the halls of Congress and across the land, men and women who are committed to the ideals we share, ideals that make Texas and America the best hope for mankind. Among the giants of history we admire is Ronald Reagan. He's one of our biggest, brightest guiding lights, the embodiment of Western optimism, a lifelong champion of freedom, and the inspirational voice who lifted the spirits of Americans and rallied millions to throw off the shackles of communism. In the modern era of radio, television, and movies, Ronald Reagan was known as the great communicator, and because he knew that for ideas to become action, they must be shared and understood. His unique genius was bringing alive abstract ideas through stories, anecdotes, and examples. He didn't sell, he showed, and people understood and believed. And the great communicator often won the battle of ideas by disarming his opponents. His humor could highlight the dangers and downsides of bad ideas, which always came wrapped up in a language of virtue and goodness. Even his opponents had to laugh. And at TPPF, we're only as effective as the ideas that have become reality. In law, policy, and culture that shapes our lives for our fellow Texans. So it's fitting that the Ronald Reagan Award honors those who have fought and won the battle of ideas driving change that improves the lives and futures of all Texans. And we present this award to policymakers, elected officials, and other leaders who have advanced key conservative reforms for the betterment of all Texans. The awardees all have one thing in common, a profound sense of mission and urgency reflecting the spirit of Ronald Reagan, who believed that freedom must be defended by each generation. And there's one more thing our awardees have in common. Perhaps Ronald Reagan's greatest legacy was his faith in the American spirit and his belief in our country's enduring capacity to produce new generations of people who will champion freedom and liberty. Those we honor with this award have done more than champion our ideals. They lead the way, set the example, and inspired our next generation of leaders. In fact, right before he left office, President Reagan said, "For it's the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed in the next century and beyond." In Ronald Reagan, we have a leader who inspired others around the world to become giants in their own ways and to guarantee America's triumph will continue. May we all strive to honor his legacy so that Americans all around the world will always see this as a shining city on the hill. And so when you honor someone who has done as much as Governor Abbott has, the list of those who like to pay tribute is long. And I promised y'all we'd be out of here before midnight, so we only have a few folks coming to speak tonight. But to begin, I would like to welcome our wonderful board member, Stacy Hawk, to the stage. While she's coming up, I'll give a brief bio. Y'all know Stacy. She is one of the most forceful and impactful women I've ever met. She is a private investor and philanthropist. She serves on several boards, and she was appointed by Governor Abbott to be chair of the Texas Higher Education Committee. Stacy has a BS from MIT, which I hear is the Texas A&M of the East, if I'm not mistaken, and an MBA right here at the University of Texas. And of course, she lives here in Austin with her husband Joel and her 4 wonderful sons. Please help me welcome Stacy Hawk.
Good evening. It's my honor to kick this off. Governor Abbott, we raise a glass tonight to something hard won and gotten right. A winding road, a stubborn fight, with plenty of hell no's in sight. But through it all, you held steady pace with true resolve and a lot of grace. And now, because you stayed the course, Texas families have a stronger voice. More choice, more hope, more paths along, a brighter future for Texas strong. For the leadership, the persistence, and for seeing this through, please join me in raising a glass, Governor Abbott, to you. Cheers.
Criminal justice reform advocate Doug Deason is president of the Deason Foundation and president of Deason Capital Services. Prior to joining DCS, Doug was CEO of Precept Builders, Inc., a nationwide commercial builder. Doug serves on the board of the Texas Public Policy Foundation as well as on the board of the Lyle School of Engineering at SMU. Doug is an outspoken advocate for criminal justice reform in Texas, Washington, D.C., and several other states. Let's welcome Doug Deason.
Feels weird to go out to a podium with a glass of wine. This bust of Reagan is the coolest award that I've ever seen. And I think I've gotten every award that Texas Public Policy Foundation has to offer, but I have to run for office for this, so it's not happening. There's no way. I would never be a politician. I appreciate everyone here, Mitch and the governor and everybody else. So I'm not going to make a toast. I'm just going to tell a quick story, and it's simply this. There was in the 88th, 2023, the 88th session, it went to 4 special sessions. And the governor finally, I think it was the 3rd or 4th when you let him know the 4th session, you said, if you don't vote for it, we're going to oppose you to the House members. There were 21 House members. And at the time it was known, it just happened the year before, it was known as the Kim Reynolds model. And she couldn't pass school choice, so she opposed 9, beat 4, and she got it done. Well, our governor, Governor Greg Abbott, opposed 21, 6 refused to run because they knew they were going to get their butts beat, and 15 he opposed 15. He spent a ton of money, a ton of time, went out and opposed, and we supported him. We started a PAC, and I told my wife, I said, we're not going on vacation for a while because I'm putting every bit of cash I can into this deal. And we, anyhow, so we knocked out 14 of the 15, and the 15th was up in Texarkana, and he's not running again. So we didn't need him, and he couldn't beat us, even though he worked for the schools. But anyhow, it's just, to me, it just says so much about the governor's character and who he is and what he does and what he's willing to do to stand up for what he believes in. And he stood for a lot in that session and in prior sessions, and he will in the next session. So, I mean, I didn't even engage really in school choice in the 89th because it was all but a done deal. Stacy Hawk did a wonderful job, and with a lot of people involved. And I just want to thank the governor and do a toast to school choice and to giving our kids a chance to actually get a quality education in this state. Thank you, sir.
Texas First Lady Cecilia Abbott is the granddaughter of immigrants from Mexico, raised in San Antonio by parents who were both educators. Cecilia earned 3 degrees from the University of St. Thomas in Houston. She's been a teacher, vice principal, and principal at several Catholic schools across Texas. Cecilia is a devoted wife to her husband of 44 years, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and a proud mother of her daughter, Audrey. Let's welcome Texas First Lady Cecilia Abbott.
Well, thank you so much for the kind welcome and for your strong leadership here at TPPF. I have the great pleasure of introducing Greg, who advocates for Texans and unified Republican leadership. And he is my husband now this year for 45 years. So, as you know, Greg and I have been through thick and thin together, from his time at law school to his accident to the last 11 years at the governor's mansion. Throughout our entire marriage, Greg has been absolutely dedicated to serving Texans, to championing conservative values, and to ensuring our state is family and faith-friendly. One major victory that Ronald Reagan would be proud of is my husband signing school choice into law this last session. Thanks to the advocacy of organizations like TPPF, our elected officials, especially those who are here tonight, and my husband's tireless work, students and families in need will be able to have the education that they deserve. Please join me in congratulating my husband, Governor Greg Abbott, on this distinguished honor.
All right, so I don't know how you follow the First Lady of Texas, who's one of the most amazing people, and as a real testament. I don't know really what she sees in you, sir, but you know, we all marry up, right? It's all lovers, that's right. But I'm so grateful to Stacy and to Doug, and of course Cecilia for joining us tonight and your remarks about Governor Abbott. But tonight we're gathered here to honor our 48th Governor, Greg Abbott. Governor Abbott has been a strong conservative leader who fights to preserve Texas values and ensure the Lone Star State remains the best place to live, work, and raise a family. He has a vision for an even stronger Texas and is focused in creating more jobs and economic opportunities and educating the leaders of the next generation, protecting individual liberties, restoring parental rights and education, and securing our southern border. In fact, he was even named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time Magazine in 2024. I won't comment on Time Magazine, sir, but it seems like such a well-deserved honor. We consider you the most influential person in the world. And Greg Abbott has served Texas so well and delivered benefits. I think this is important for all Texans, many of who will never know his name. And he's worked to ensure that Texas is a beacon of opportunity, innovation, and prosperity. And each year he's been in an office, Texas has been ranked as the #1 state for business in America. In fact, the $2.6 trillion Texas economy is the 8th largest in the world, but I hear we're coming for France, and we'll soon be 7th. That's right. But it's not just big business that succeeds in Texas. Our great state is home to more than 3 million small businesses that employ almost half of all working Texans. And to ensure that Texas remains a beacon of liberty, Governor Abbott has taken unprecedented steps to secure our southern border, including busing migrants is one of the most beautiful things ever, to sanctuary cities like Washington, D.C. You would go to these places and they'd be like, can you tell your governor to stop? We get it. We understand. He, of course, built the Texas border wall. He's declared Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. And through his Operation Lone Star border has further secured our border. Governor Abbott has championed a property tax reform which makes the American dream more affordable for families. In addition, he also wants parents to be empowered to control their children's schooling and provide students with critical career training that lead to high-paying and in-demand jobs. So there's a lot more things that I could say about you, Governor, but Mandy was up here earlier giving the pledge, and although our microphone wasn't working, so some of y'all might not have heard it, but watching the effort, sir, that you put in to going around the state with Mandy and our team, and knowing that, you know, Doug talked a little bit about the elections after we didn't get across the finish line in 2023. In fact, I think your analogy was like, we're at the 1 yard line. And you're like a good fullback, sir. You pushed it through. But the leadership that you showed in the state, the leadership that so many, I know Chairman Buckley was here earlier. I saw Chancellor now, Brandon Creighton, from afar, so I think he's here as well. But working with them, the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker to get this done shows that not only do you believe in the future of this state, you believe every child deserves the opportunity to reach its full potential. And it's something truly special. And a lot of people have said that they want to take on this fight, but you're the one who did, and we're so grateful for it. But there's a lot of people that have a lot of nice things they want to say about you, Governor, and we heard from a few of them, but we also put together this video to show our love and our belief in what you've done. So please enjoy the video. We started the Ronald Reagan Award about 10 years ago to recognize elected officials and legislators, people who had gone above and beyond to ensure that Texas is the guiding light for the rest of the country. Much like Ronald Reagan, these are people who served with virtue and served to ensure the flourishing, the prosperity of all our fellow Texans. We've had several great past recipients of the Ronald Reagan Award, and we're just so honored that we are finally adding Governor Abbott to that list.
You know, he was my next door neighbor for 10 years. I taught him everything he knows. No, don't use that. He's just a good guy. He's such a great partnership with Cecilia. I mean, they're just down-to-earth folks. He's just an ordinary Texan that just happens to do extraordinary things.
My favorite thing about Governor Abbott is that he always comes across as genuine and authentic, because he is. And he is always welcoming to our grassroots communities. He's always advocating alongside them, not just in front of them. And that's what makes him so effective and why we enjoy supporting what he does.
You can tell a lot about a person from the people they surround themselves with. Governor Abbott has always had great administrators and staff around him in his tenure in office. And he provides the leadership and the dedication that it takes to make Texas truly great.
Since 2020, Governor Abbott faced 4 unprecedented disasters. He had COVID, he had an open border, a winter storm Uri, and then he had the Kerrville floods. Each of these had the potential to crush the spirit of 32 million Texans. But because of the way the governor stood in the gap on each issue, he will go down as one of our most consequential governors since Sam Houston.
He's done a great job for the state of Texas, especially the coast, on handling disasters. You're seeing a lot of new rules, regulations, and laws, making it more efficient, making it more coordinated. So Texas is the #1 state in the nation through his leadership on handling emergencies. Another issue that he doesn't get enough credit for is his help on combating human trafficking in the state of Texas. He's been a great champion.
One of the great policies that he's championed, near and dear to my heart, is pro-life. So his heart to protect the unborn babies in our state has just been very tremendous.
If you look at universities, when Governor Abbott became governor, and you look at those universities now, some of them are unrecognizable. I mean, University of Houston didn't have a medical school. Texas A&M didn't have a law school. Those are the kinds of things that people appreciate what Greg Abbott's done.
Governor Abbott has been a long-time supporter of small businesses. He created the Small Business Freedom Council, which led to some things that we can be truly proud of.
Without Governor Abbott, there would be no Texas Stock Exchange and all of the exciting developments that go along with standing up a national exchange right here in Texas.
Well, Governor Abbott has championed policies that focus on strengthening the Texas economy, supporting public safety, and investing in infrastructure that keeps our communities growing.
What I like about working with Governor Abbott is what happened this year at Crime Stoppers. The governor personalizes everything, and I'm watching the governor interact with the victims. I'm watching how comfortable he makes their families feel, because he's been in the criminal justice system basically his entire life. He will stay here and talk to every single victim that approaches him. And for surviving family members of homicide, that means a great, great deal.
As we saw the movements of 2020 and 2021, where people were all across the country defunding law enforcement, and Austin being one of those. What did he do? He led the charge once again, convinced the legislature that we needed to pass a law that says in Texas, you cannot defund law enforcement. So, when I see other law enforcement across the state, we all know that Greg Abbott has our back.
In 2021, Texas faced a crisis when the federal government opened our Texas border. Governor Abbott had no predicate. There was no template in the top drawer of his desk as to what do you do when a federal government refuses to execute their constitutional duties. So being the judge that he is, he grappled with the constitutional issues, and he came up with a program called Operation Lone Star.
It was a couple of years ago when we still were having border issues and bussing people out. And a good friend of mine who's a sheriff in Michigan called me, and he has Detroit in his jurisdiction. He says, do you think that Governor Abbott would talk to my Detroit mayor? And I said, well, I'll happily pass the message on. But I got to ask, Michael, what does your mayor want with my governor? And he said he wants to make sure that Governor Abbott understands that Detroit wasn't a sanctuary city and that we cooperated with ICE. What power or what influence that Governor Abbott had across the United States, where he was having mayors of major cities certainly pausing and thinking about what their policies were.
No one deserved the Ronald Reagan Award more than Governor Abbott. School choice would not have happened without nonstop effort and work on the part of Governor Abbott. If he did just a little bit less, it would have failed.
School choice before Governor Abbott was involved, in one word I would say, was languishing.
It was often debated, but there was not the same level of statewide focus or urgency behind it.
Look, around the country, there were several states that had passed some form of private school choice, and a few had even passed universal school choice. But the entire country knew that Texas was the crown jewel.
The opposition rightly saw Texas as the dam holding back a flood of much-needed reform. This is why the national education system and the teachers union worked so hard to prevent school choice from ever passing in Texas.
Politics is a full contact sport in Texas, and Governor Abbott was not afraid to put his political capital on the line in backing candidates all over the state for the legislature who believe that parents, not unions and establishment bureaucrats, should have the right to send their children to the school of their choice.
As we met with legislators to talk about how we could advance school choice and finally get this done in Texas, one of the biggest things that really turned the tide and started shifting momentum was when they realized that Governor Abbott was not only supportive, but was leading and had their backs on the issue.
The other thing that made a huge difference was when there was a legislator who wasn't sure if they would back it or not, he would go into their district and hold town halls right in their home district.
The governor stuck around after our parent empowerment nights, and he met every single parent that wanted to talk to him. Sometimes he would spend hours there after the event, off camera, talking and listening to moms. I saw children hug him and moms crying with him, and he stayed and listened. But this time was going to be different. There was a thunderstorm coming in. So we kind of got through the event fast, and when they were prepared to take him out, lead him out, and go, he stopped them, and he went to the area where he could meet parents, and he didn't care or worry about a storm coming in, and my admiration for him grew even more.
When he came to my school, Kingdom Life Academy, and to experience his heart, his humility, the time that he took to spend with our staff, even after the news conference. And he also gave me the opportunity to pray with him in my office. And it was in that moment that I felt God pour his fatherly love in my life for Governor Abbott.
School choice is more than just improving test scores. It's about giving parents and children the freedom to choose where they will be happy and where they will thrive. Happiness doesn't show up on any of the current metrics. It can only be measured in the hearts of joyous children.
I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of students trapped in unsafe and failing schools, and just because they're low income, they can't go anyplace else. And he's their champion. He almost single-handedly, I mean, he had a group around him, but he was the leader of the team, and he got it done.
Texas, I predict, through Governor Abbott's leadership, will be the #1 school choice state in this nation.
Congratulations, Governor Abbott, on receiving the Ronald Reagan Award. There's nobody in Texas or America that deserves this quite like you. Thank you for all you've done for every parent across our great state.
Governor Abbott, congratulations on receiving the Ronald Reagan Award. You have led this state with courage and virtue, and we're better because of it. Thank you.
Well, Governor, as chairman of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and on behalf of our board of directors, and also on behalf of our complete staff at 901 Congress, I want to congratulate you on receiving the Ronald Reagan Award. You deserve it.
Governor, we are so grateful for your leadership and your friendship, and this state is a better place because of you. Please help me welcome to the stage our 48th governor and Ronald Reagan Award winner, Governor Greg Abbott.
Just know that Hookem comment just cost me a few votes. But anyway, this is a very productive evening already because now I know what my TV ad is going to be over the remainder of this campaign season. There you go. But listen, thank you to everybody who came up here and gave such extraordinary remarks. Thank you to Greg Sindelar, Stacey Hawk, Doug Deason, Kyle Stallings. Thank you, man, for everything that you've done. And it really is unusual, to be honest, to have my wife come up at an event like this. And so a very big thank you to the fabulous First Lady of the great state of Texas, Cecilia Abbott. But a very large thank you and very much gratitude to TPPF. TPPF is known more than any other state-based policy organization, maybe more than any other national policy organization, to actually move the needle, to get things done. It's not a talking society, it's an action society. They come up with great policies, but they also come up with the strategies to make sure those policies actually are enacted. And it was TPPF that was the forerunner of school choice in our state. Without TPPF, there would be no school choice in the state of Texas. It makes sense when you think about it, because I bet if you quizzed TPPF directors or others about naming a single word that they think is of paramount importance when it comes to policy or any other thing involving democracy, it'd be the word freedom, more likely than not. And school choice, obviously, is about freedom. It's about the freedom of parents being able to choose the best education pathway for their child. So this is something that Mandy and I, as I'll recount later on in my 1 hour remarks. I was given an hour, right? We hit the road maybe 100 times. I'd lost count a lot. But either she or I used the phrase, Mom and Dad know best. Who can argue with that? Democrats can, of course, but other than that, who can argue with that sentiment? You think some government official knows what the education pathway is better for a child than that child's own parent? Of course not. And it was high time the state of Texas joined the legion of other states in the United States and finally became a school choice state. So as much as this is an award dinner, I consider this to be a victory dinner. A victory dinner by everybody in this room and people outside of this room. A victory for the warriors in this room who helped get us across the finish line. Maybe more importantly, a victory dinner for all the parents out there who've been begging to be able to choose a best school for their child. Most victories, including this victory, involve team efforts. Truly, I wouldn't be here. School choice would not be here if we did not have an incredible team, including the team at TPPF, but also obviously no legislation reaches the governor's desk without legislators who pass that legislation and get it there. And then it's one thing to get a law passed, it's another thing to execute that law. And to see the way that Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock executed the law that we delivered goes above and beyond the call of duty. Excellent job, Kelly Hancock. As my office would know, and I don't know if they're here or not, but the team in the governor's office who worked overtime to make sure this happened, they deserve a big round of applause for the tireless hours they spend in the governor's office. You know, some of the biggest victories are the result of arduous journeys. A big victory, regardless of what realm you're dealing in life, is something that is overcoming an enormous challenge that you've sought to surpass the summit for a long, long time. That's exactly what we did in achieving school choice. It was articulated so well and so many people up here. Doug began a part of the timeline discussion, and I'll go back before Doug. I'm looking for him right now. The bright lights make y'all look alike right now. So the timeline was this, and the math here is important. As Stacy knows, she and I worked on school choice a long time. Leininger knows, I think every year I've been governor, I worked on school choice. And every year I've been governor, the Senate always passed school choice. One and done, it was over. Tam Parker saying, yeah. And the other senators in the room, everyone knows school choice, low number bill, always gets passed. The issue was always in the Texas House. And in 2021, after working on this for a few years, I thought 2021 may be our best year ever, our best chance, for a singular reason. And that's because it was in the immediate aftermath of COVID and the travesty of what we saw on video of our kids learning, or rather trying to learn online, and some of the abusive woke agenda that was crammed down the throats of our kids. I know that in reality, there was an enormous backlash against all of that. Parents were angry about what was going on in the classrooms of their kids, and I knew that anger was palpable. And so when we got to the Texas House and the Texas Capitol in the 2021 session, I thought this is the opportunity that will provide us finally the chance to pass school choice. And I'm going to go through some math. Realize not everybody here's a math major, but in the Texas House, there's 150 members. To get something passed in the Texas House requires 76 votes. In the 2021 session, in the aftermath of seeing our children be abused with horrific things during the time of COVID, there was a test vote early in the session. For legislators, they know it's called the Herrero Amendment. And when the Herrero Amendment came up, the test vote of whether or not they would even allow a vote on school choice, out of the 150 House members, there were only 29 who voted yes for school choice. That's less than 20% of the Texas House. And school choice died that session on that vote. Undeterred, I now had that sense of mission that Greg was talking about earlier. And I thought, well, I'm going to campaign for re-election in 2022 on school choice. So I hit the campaign trail. I campaigned on the issue, and if you recall, it was in that election, we had the ballot initiative on the ballot. The people who voted for me or against me in the primary, the people who voted for everybody in the Republican primary, they also cast a vote, yes or no, do they support school choice in Texas? Based upon that vote, we knew by House district, we knew by precinct, whether or not voters in that district supported school choice or were against school choice. And this wasn't a poll, these were real voters. So we knew in the aftermath of that primary where the voters of Texas stood. And we took that information and went back into the session in 2023 where I thought, well, we really have it this time because the voters spoke. And again, all we need are Republicans. We didn't hold out any hope of getting any Democrats to vote for it. And all we needed was for Republicans to vote for school choice in the same way that their constituents voted for it. By the way, in that referendum, for many of the districts, more than 90% of the Republican primary voters said yes, they want school choice. On average, it was about 85% of Republican primary voters who wanted school choice. This was not an obstacle to overcome. This was just lining up and giving your voters exactly what they wanted. So when we got into the session in 2023, we had another test vote. early in the session. Remember, in the prior session, we got 29 votes. This time when the test vote came up, there were 52 House Republicans who supported school choice. More than 29, but obviously way short of the 76 that were needed to have any chance of getting it passed. So what I decided then is, during the session, while legislators are in office, I was going to go on the campaign trail with Mandy Drogan and campaign in the districts of the House members who were not supporting school choice, holding these town halls, working with the parents, hugging their kids, and thinking that this will surely educate these House members that this is exactly what their own voters are demanding be delivered to them. And then it didn't get passed in the regular session. We called a special session. It didn't get passed in the special session. Called a second special session. Did not get passed in the second special session. Called a third special session. Did not get passed. Called a fourth special session. And that, Greg, is that point, I think it was you that brought this up. It was in that fourth special session where it actually was on a TPPF phone call, if I recall. I was on a TPPF phone call, and somebody asked a question about what are you going to do? And I said, the reality is this. There's an easy way to get this done or a hard way to get it done. The easy way is we'll go back in the Capitol tomorrow, and they're going to pass school choice. And for those who remember, it was a half-baked school choice plan, which is an over-exaggeration of the quality of it. It was Pee Wee League school choice. The best thing ever happened to us is that it failed. Because at that time, after informing every legislator who voted against school choice, the campaign is on to make sure that we're going to elect House members who truly represent the demands of their constituents. We still only had 63 votes in favor of it, 13 votes short of what was needed to pass school choice. So that led to the do or die moment. Either I'm going to have to back up my word, back up my threats, give it my last shot, basically, is what I had to do. So you mentioned earlier about a mission. You used another word called urgency. This is when the urgency kicked in. This campaign season, so the timing of this is the fourth special session ended in early December before the primary campaign season began just the month after that. The elections were just a couple of months away, the primary elections. So we only had a few months to start and to win campaigns. That started by supporting and backing every Republican incumbent who came out and put their neck on the line and supported school choice, knowing that, first of all, we must defend those who fought for us and ensure they got reelected. Second, we wanted to campaign for candidates who would work to get school choice passed. And to accomplish that, once again, Mandy and I hit the road. Every district, night and day, tirelessly, working with the voters, the people who are going to cast those votes in the March primary. We knew by talking to them that they were demanding this as much as we were offering it. Mandy was with us on primary election night in my office as we saw the results come in. One victory here, another victory there. We would do the math along the way until late at night on primary election night, there were 76 Republicans who supported school choice, who got elected by the Republican Party. Well, if you know anything about politics, you know it's one thing to win an election, it's another thing to actually get policy passed. So we needed to hold together those 76 votes as we headed into the session. And we ran into an historical issue. In the history of Texas, for one, we had a Senate that once again, like Dan Patrick says, okay, this is day 2 of the Senate. We're going to pass school choice tomorrow. And it passed out that fast. The issue came down to the Speaker. In the history of Texas, there has never been a Speaker of the Texas House who would allow a vote on the substance of school choice to even take place ever. Dustin Burrows crossed that threshold. We would not be here tonight without Dustin Burrows crossing that threshold. But obviously it took more than just the Speaker getting it done, because these members of the legislature, they were being hit upon by lobbyists, by teachers, by whoever they would turn to seemingly when they're walking down a hallway. And it required constant collaboration to make sure that we would be able to contain the majority to get it done. And when it came down to the final vote, came up on the House floor, we didn't have 76 votes. Instead, we had 86 votes. All but 2 of the Republicans voted yes for school choice, and school choice now is the law of the great state of Texas. Again, as anybody knows anything about politics, it's one thing to pass a law. There's another thing to actually fulfill that law. And here comes Kelly Hancock. They proposed and adopted the rules to govern the program. They selected a vendor to run the program, created a marketing strategy to publicize the program, and created the application process for parents to apply. Each step of the way was being viewed under a microscope by the Democrats, by the press, by the teacher unions, expecting failure at every turn, because every other state that imposed or adopted school choice, they had fumbles along the way. Especially when you get to these online platforms, when you have thousands of people sign up. You remember what happened with Obamacare. You remember what happened with a lot of sign-up programs. And, a living nightmare was the platform crashing on day 1. But every step of the way was perfect execution. No fumble at all. I've heard 0 complaints or concerns. And by golly, if there was one concern raised, Democrats would be shouting it from a rooftop. There's been flawless execution by Kelly Hancock. Kelly, I cannot thank you enough for delivering such a fabulous school choice program. It's just stunning. Almost 275,000 families have now chosen and are part of the largest first-year school choice program in the history of the United States of America. I see here tonight we also are joined by Don Huffines, who's won the Republican nomination for comptroller. And we've talked about this many times, and he told me, listen, he was school choice before I was school choice. He's all in to ensure that he will carry the baton and ensure that school choice is going to be delivered to the families who want it so desperately here in the state of Texas. So let me just close with this concept. So Greg Sindelar will remember, and as other TPF members will remember, it was, I think, on this stage when I told everybody we were on the 1-yard line, that we were going to continue until we crossed the goal line. And I will continue with that metaphor, which is a football metaphor, and say that getting school choice passed is like NFL players who've been in the league for years with one goal in this, to win the Super Bowl, but never even get close to doing it, only to finally one year finally win the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl championship for this legislation. But here's something that comes along with being a Super Bowl champion. The distinction goes away the moment after you achieve that summit. Because the moment after that, the day after that, you're into the next season already. So yes, we have passed school choice. Yes, we've won that Super Bowl. But yes, equally yes, we're not done. It's not won and done forever. We have to go back to the league and fight again, year after year after year. Buckley, you're back again. What you did to get this passed into my desk is incomparable to anything I've seen in the Texas House. Give it up for Brad Buckley. And he knows he inherited something that was very well crafted by Brandon Creighton. Brandon, I know you're out here, over here somewhere. Thank you. There you go, Brandon. Thank you, sir, for what you did. But here's the deal. If we are going to go into this next session and ensure that we are going to protect the legacy of school choice, we have to make sure we elect everybody right now who supports school choice who's on the ballot. This is going to be a contentious election cycle, and it's going to require all hands on deck. Everybody has to be engaged and involved in these elections. Everybody in this room. Going back to that word urgency, there must be urgency in this room to reelect every Republican to the Texas legislature. That's the surest pathway to ensure generations of our kids are going to be educated in the best possible way, and that is the way chosen by their parents. Thank you to TPPF. Thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you for Texans for fighting for Texas standards. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
You're so charitable. Please help me thank our wonderful Governor Greg Abbott. If you're curious about what we're talking about as he's getting off stage, is we have another bet about who's going to win the A&M Texas game this year. So I'm feeling a little cocky. I don't know why. I keep losing Jeff Sparks, but hopefully I'm not wearing burnt orange next year at this event. We'll see. We'll see if we can break the tradition. Before we go, just a couple quick things. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I want to thank the governor. You know, there's a real sense of urgency, as he said, and we all know that there are no permanent victories in this world. And so the legislators who are going to go into the 90th and fight to not only ensure that what we're doing maintains, but also grow it, will be really important. The work of hopefully our next comptroller and others will continue to ensure that this is not only a great start to a program, but becomes the best program and the best school choice program in the country. And so, but all of that starts, Governor, with you and your leadership. And so, without further ado, man, we're only 8:36. We could keep going for another 30 or 40 minutes if you wanted to. But you know, we have early morning tomorrow. We start off with Chancellor Creighton and Chancellor Hager in the morning. So please join us right here for that. And God bless y'all, and God bless Texas. Thank you.